Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show. Welcome to my show. One of my favorite expressions is, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. All of us mess up. And to talk about that today, Pastor Julie Schaecher. She's an author and speaker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I've got to tell you, I think this may be my favorite title for a book ever. Messed Up, A Guide to Finding Your Way Forward. I love that title.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, how'd you come up with the title?
Okay, so Messed Up, A Guide to Finding Your Way Forward. I think the honest truth is I messed up. And I think sometimes you just have to say it. So probably by the age of 22, I think my bio could read divorced, single mom, 2-time college dropout, dealing drugs, alcoholic, living with a violent and abusive man who was not my baby's daddy. And oh, by the way, right now I'm a pastor. But I am a firm believer that there really is no lost cause. And so there was a catalytic moment that changed everything for me, and I was able to kind of recalculate the destination of my life and find my way forward. And I think into the life that I always knew deep in my heart I was purposed for. So for the last over 30 years, I've been traveling the globe. I speak about the story to anyone who will listen, because I do believe that everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
And they don't define us, and it is very, very possible to reconnect to that inspired destiny that you have, no matter how bad you've really messed up.
Well, I think this is going to be a bestseller. We're going to put the cover of the book up on the screen so you can see it. This is one of those books where the name is just so refreshingly honest. In fact, we were talking off the air about the idea that I can't believe no one had that title.
Yeah.
And you said it's because everybody's talking about success.
Yes.
Success is not nearly as interesting as failure.
I don't think so. And I think the very first part to being a success is you have to assess where you are. You just have to admit where you are.
Yes.
Right. You can't ever navigate to a destination unless you first allow yourself to figure out where you're at. It's the first thing your phone asks you, right? Your GPS. Can I use your current location?
Yes.
Right. And so if we're not just, something in my life is messed up and I feel powerless to change it.
Yes.
And I think that if over 3 decades of sitting in pastoral mentoring situations, I can sum up almost every conversation like that. Whether it's a marriage or my finances or my kid or my ministry or my career, something in my life is messed up and I don't know how to move beyond that.
Okay, so some of your advice would be, if you hear that GPS saying recalculating too many times in a day, you might be in the wrong zip code.
Yes, recalculate, return to the road. You know, I often say if I made a GPS, it would say, how's that working for you? Or like, what part of turn right did you not understand? Or
Exactly.
like, really? That's what you decided. So yeah, I think there is that kind of inner GPS, and people have called me a human GPS. I help people recalculate that direction and find their way forward. But I do feel like there's that kind of inner knowing that just refuses to die, that tells you there's something more than what you're currently living in.
Yes.
And it's constantly saying you need to recalculate, you need to return to the root. But sometimes the circumstances in our life can be a little overwhelming.
Yes. We've got some video of you speaking. I know you're the pastor of a church in San Marcos.
Yes, yes.
Tell us more about that.
Okay, so I'm the executive pastor of the Movement Church in San Marcos, and this is a church that originally the demographic was like 18 to 25-year-olds.
Wow.
And now the demographic is not much older than that, so we really speak to that younger generation. And I don't know, I was in corporate America for many, many years, and 6 years ago I felt very strongly that I was supposed to go into the church and do in the church what I did in the marketplace. In other words, bringing best practices that can really encourage healthy cultures
Yes.
in the church administrative space. And I was just very passionate about that. I wanted to see healthy teams. I wanted to see best practices in any simple things like finance and HR, and in being able to build teams. And really, again, one of my passions is women in leadership.
Yes.
Being able to help develop those female leaders that are among your congregation, because obviously as a female, coming up and being a pastor, that's not something you see every day.
Let's talk about the power of forgiving yourself, because I think all of us mess up, and we do it frequently.
Yes.
And often it's not the
Yes.
mess up that causes the damage, it's the fact that you keep replaying the mess up over
Yes.
and over and over again.
Yes, and I think one of the chapters in the book is called Finding Value in the Past, because I think if we can't find the value of where we've been, we continue to be enslaved to it as a victim. And this book is not written from a victim mentality, though I could have many reasons of abuse and violence and all of this stuff. It's not. And one of the things that I've learned to value is that the mistakes I've made created situations that helped to develop who I am today, that helped me walk down the street of a country where women are being sold into slavery without fear, and being able to look at someone in a situation like that and say, I know there's leadership in you.
Yes.
I know it because I was that girl that was stuck. And so I've learned to value it, and in that I've learned to forgive and move on.
And it really doesn't matter how bad you messed up.
No, not at all.
If you find yourself in prison, if you've really, really messed up, the good book talks about the prodigal son. And
Yes, yes, absolutely. One of the things that I always say is God has not changed his mind about you. I think before you were born, there was an inspired destiny. And that was actually before you had the ability to mess it up. And so God will not change his mind about you. And though there are some, we can't go back and retrace. And one of the reasons why this is a guide to finding your way forward is because we have to move beyond this.
Yes.
And we take the value of it. But yeah, God will never change his mind about you.
And sometimes I tell people that adversity makes you stronger. So, they don't make movies about people who were born rich, had no adversity, and died rich, because nobody would see that movie. There's no drama there, right? So life is about peaks and valleys.
Yes. Yes, there's no tension.
Yeah.
There's no color, there's no relatability, because as I said, everybody has messed up at least once in their life. And here, if you haven't, we can talk about that. But if you haven't, you probably have a messy person in your life. And one of the chapters in the book is called Messy People, because messy people, they take a lot of time. They can be frustrating at times, and they often don't even want your help. And so how do you deal with a messy person in your life, especially when maybe that might be a son or husband or a family member or a close friend? Sometimes their mess bleeds all over into your life. And
Yes.
how do you handle that? And so yeah, I think everyone can relate to some degree with how to deal with those messes in our lives, and yet still continue to live those inspired lives that we know deep in our heart.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
how about in cases where the person didn't mess up, like the pandemic, the economy? I mean, you got 40 million
Yes.
people out of work. It's not
Yes.
necessarily their fault.
Yes.
But that's still, it could be a setback, a mental setback for that employee who might have identified themselves
Yes.
with this career. What would you say to that person?
Yes. Well, what I would say to that person, 100%, is that the leader in you, the person in you, we can't change your circumstances. We can change you in the midst of your circumstances. Because right now, this whole pandemic and everything that we're experiencing in the world, it's unprecedented, right? Has created opportunities for us to discover things about ourselves that we never knew were there. And people are coming up with new ideas, and they are being innovative. And so yes, you didn't ever want to homeschool. and now you're homeschooling while working at the kitchen table, and by the way, you don't like almost everybody living in your house. And so
Right. It's true for a lot of people.
and you feel powerless to change that. And so what I would say to them is it's no different than when you find yourself in another messed up situation. We assess where we are. We start to recalculate that direction. Okay, so we need to recalculate that direction. That's an obstacle. But it doesn't change who we are in the midst of that situation. And we can, I don't know, I think to be a little bit cliche, we can find joy in the journey. But I think even more so, we can find out so much more about who we are as leaders
Yes.
in this time frame. I am loving the opportunities that are that we're presented with right now. Loving it.
You are amazing. We're going to have you back. So let's put the website up. JulieSchaecher.com is the website. I love it. I love that smile. You are awesome, and thank you for blessing us with your warmth and wisdom.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
Thank you.
And that's it for now.
All
We'll
right.
see you next time.
Bye-bye.